Hey guys, welcome back to Hear Our Voices, where we listen to stories, give resources, and we also change the narrative of homelessness. This is your host, Kay Did. Thank you for coming back this week to listen to the podcast, and I hope that you can sit back and relax and enjoy part 2. I hope you're learning information. I hope you can just learn something and see how the system really have failed us and fail our youths of New York and of America, to be honest. So, can you also please follow us on social media, on all our platforms, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And if you have any comments for us, you can DM us. If you have any questions for us, you could DM us. Everything will be down in the link tree down below. And thank you for being so wonderful. Bye.
It's weird though that it would it's just weird in general because she has older kids. I would think that all of them would go in the system. That just makes sense to me. For only one child to go in the system, this is very weird. I don't know. That's right.
Yeah. And she's like, because she put me in the system, like that kind of helped her get her own apartment, because at the time that she was pregnant with me, she was living with her mother-in-law of her deceased husband, who wasn't my father, but was some of the older kids' father. And it states in the paperwork, she didn't want to bring an extra burden to her mother-in-law.
Wow.
And she wanted help with getting her papers. She wanted help with getting her own apartment. She ended up getting a 4-bedroom apartment that she lived in, that she's still in, that she's lived in for the last 45 years.
Well, that's commitment to an apartment. I don't know if I could do that. Not even a house with an apartment. I don't know how people do that, but to each his own with that. That would get kind of bored. I get bored of my stuff, and I'm only here for 6 years. So, so you, baby, she didn't say this part in the thing, what she told me before, left in the hospital, failed adoption, as you heard. And now she told me also, I didn't know this part, that when she was 18, she actually went homeless. Can you tell us a little bit more about that exactly, if you don't mind?
Well, when I was 17, I aged out of the group home. So the last group home I was in was Mother Cabrini, and that was upstate near Poughkeepsie, Newport. And I aged out, so they kicked me out. So I did not want to go home to my adopted mother's house. Like, that just was not happening, and she didn't want me there. So I went to my older adopted sister. And because of, everything that had happened with us during our childhood, she had issues too. Right. So we really didn't get along. So then, I got out when I was 17, and the same month I got out of the group home, I got pregnant.
Wow, that's fast.
August 1993. So that was another issue. So then I had my daughter in May of 94. And it was just the issue with, I think back then, both of us just didn't have the knowledge to be kind to each other.
Right.
And I just felt like whatever I did, I just couldn't satisfy her. Like, whether I was cleaning the house, I was putting food in the refrigerator with my food stamps. It was just like always like, a issue. So around the time that my daughter was like 2, my sister, she threw all of our clothes and stuff. She threw out the house. So I was homeless, and I was living here, there, and everywhere with my daughter. And it wasn't a good situation. I was dealing with guys that, were drug dealers. So, when my daughter was 6 months old, we was taking trips to Virginia, with this guy that I was with so that he could sell drugs. Like, it was, just staying here, there, a hotel one night, a friend's house until, they got tired of me and told me I had to go. It was very much that situation. And then I ended up having my adopted mother's sister, who was my aunt, take my daughter, but I didn't know that she was a heroin addict.
Oh boy.
So, so that wasn't good, but that led to me being a prostitute. I was one of them girls who was on Huts Point, who had a pimp. And just to try to survive. And that went on until my daughter was about 5.
Oh my God.
And when my daughter was about 5, my adoptive grandmother died. And the one thing I can say my adoptive mother did for me that was absolutely amazing is that she made sure that I got her apartment. And that was the beginning of me being stable. And the rest is history. But, that's why I understand, like, you don't have to tell your story to everybody or, different parts of your stories to everybody, to understand. That's why, people be like, oh, you're in so many things, like you're advocating in so many areas. And I'm like, understand every area I'm in, every area that I advocate in is because I have lived experience.
Right.
And I know what it's like, to be in those situations. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that even like when I was a prostitute, not a prostitute, when I was a sex worker, honey, because we done changed the language. When I was a sex
like it
worker,
make it sound better.
it was more about me wanting to please people. When you grow up like I grew up, you have this thing where you feel like you always have to prove to everybody around you that you're worthy, that you're worthy of them being your friend, that you're worthy of being their girlfriend, that you're worthy of just being in anybody's presence. And that stems from, lack of self-confidence because, lack of, emotional and social learning and growing because I didn't have that as a child. I was just trying to survive.
Right. I would never imagine. She definitely don't look like, if y'all seen this my video, what she been through for sure. She looked young. I wouldn't even think she was a grandmother. Like, I cannot believe she started out in the world rough, guys. I mean,
rough,
left behind rough, left at a precinct rough, had a kid at 18, which is, people do what they want to do, you know what I'm saying? But she wasn't ready for that either. She came out of foster home rough. Well, she said,
it's
sex
real
worker,
rough when you don't have support, Like,
that's true. It was rough for you, but she made it. Like, look at her. She has community groups. I forgot the actual name for it, but you know what I mean. Oh my God.
Community-based organizations. Yeah. So that's why, we make a point of talking, we have this, that's why we have coined the term lived experience experts, because a lot of times when we're talking about homelessness, when we're talking about the child welfare system, when we're talking about housing, when we're talking about anything that affects us on a deep level, they put, scholars in front of us or people who have actually worked in these institutions and did mad harm as the people with experience. And I'm like, null and void. You need to talk to the people that survived these systems, the people that came through on the other side. Those are the people that need to be at the center. Those are the people that need to be consultants. Those are the people that need to be paid for speaking, opportunities and things like that. So I'm also an advocate for that. Like, you can put me in front of a scholar, like for many times I am accused of being a college graduate. I am not. I have a whole GED, and I think that I'm a business owner. And yeah, I'm a business owner, but I say that to say, a lot of college educations are not educations. I run a lot of circles around people with letters after their name. So, being schooled and being educated is two different things. And that's what I try to tell people as well.
I try to tell people all the time that, yes, people might have the education for it, but if you don't have the actual lived experience, I'm not saying that, I'll say it all the time, I'm not saying that you can't help. So people are very good, they've never experienced it in life, and they're very good at helping. So people who never experienced it in life, and they're doing a lot of harm than good. And that's the people I have a problem with.
And I have a problem with the white saviorism is a bit much. Even if we're talking about philanthropy, like, all of these rules and regulations to give people money that will do great things with the money. I feel like you see the work, you need to give money, with no tie, with no ties to it. A lot of these things, I feel like we have to beg for, to prove who we are when we're out here on the ground doing what we can do every day. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing with our community-based organization. If there's strings attached to any money that you're offering us, we don't want it.
Okay. I understand. Oh my gosh. It's so much, really. I want y'all to see I just got to see her, how she came up from nothing and came into something. Like, people think, oh my God, I have this one bump in the road and I cannot make it. No, she made it. Everything might not have been all sunshine and rainbow all the time. And for a while, it seemed like it was a struggle going on. But she made it.
I'm a fighter, right? So I just turned my physical fight in because, you know, in my younger years, you hurt my feelings, I beat you up. Like, I'm not, and that's the truth.
She had the time.
Yes, because I will always like, and I've always been like caring, and like the only movie I can remember my adopted parents taking us to was E.T. and I was like 6 years old. And girl, when I tell you I cried and I resonated with that alien who
I can see that.
wanted to go home.
Oh,
I've
man.
always been like that, but you know, I just learned how to, you know, turn my anger into positivity. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, you know, getting myself in trouble and physical violence. Like, I now fight with my mouth, and you know, the thing that I do, you know, I fight by helping, you know, a parent. I fight by helping a child. I fight by, you know, doing a great event that, you know, where families can come and have a good time and, you know, sit down and paint. You know, we just really are intentional. We think about the things that are not in public education, and you know, we try to provide those types of things like art and, you know, digital equity, and you know, in real time. You know, we have a lot of community partners that we partner with, like JMAC for Families. We work very closely with them. We work very closely with Black Voices That Matter. We work very closely with Future Giants. Like, we have a whole bunch of community partners where we kind of got a network of, you know what I'm saying, grassroots resources. So if I don't have it, I try to have somebody in my Rolodex that does have a service for anyone who might need it.
Got it. I think that's very important, because a lot of things in the community are missing. And I think people don't think about those things that's missing. And those things make a person whole. When you're a mom and you don't have Pampers for your child, that's a problem. You hurt because you're like, I can't afford it.
I know what it's like. I know what it's like to ration Pampers and say, okay, she can pee a couple of more times before I change her, because I only have a certain amount of parents, like a Pampers. Like, I know what that feels like, and it's not a good feeling.
It's not.
And it's not a good feeling to feel like you have to beg for necessities. You know what I'm saying? We live in the richest country in the world. And there's more than enough for everyone. But because of this thing called capitalism, that cannot work without racism, a lot of people don't have what they need.
And that's sad.
That's sad. You know, capitalism means that the 1% at the top will have more than enough, and the rest of us will be scrambling. Like, capitalism can't work without that dynamic. Capitalism needs a lot of poor people to succeed.
And we got a lot of poor people here. Like, people don't be fooled. You watching in another country or listening to this in another country, that America, people in my country think America just these big lights. They see Manhattan on TV. That's not America.
Right? America, like, even now, I go to a lot of events, right? You know that, right? A lot of political events, right?
Right.
And at all of them, they sing the so-called national anthem.
Right.
And I sit down and look at everyone like they're crazy, because we know who wrote the national anthem. We know it wasn't for Black people. It was just for the white people who came from Europe. So why are we as Black people still standing for this, still continue to perpetuate this lie and give it respect? Nothing will change as long as we keep holding up these harms. My national anthem is Lift Every Voice and Sing, honey.
I think it's well known that it is the anthem.
Stand for the national anthem because I know too much. And a lot of times in America, you know, we are not allowed to tell the truth. We are not allowed to live by the truth because we're still saying the Constitution was a good piece of paper. We're still 3/5 of a person. Nobody's saying that.
Right.
But yet, you know, every Black elected official has to put their hand on the Bible and has to say that they're going to uphold the Constitution. So my question, Kay, is how do we change these harmful racist policies if we keep holding them up and saying, oh, well, there was some good stuff in there.
That's the problem. Evil. Take out the bad stuff and leave the things you think is good.
Evil is evil. Like, even with the amendments, the 13th Amendment, you're free unless you're a criminal. Now we can still use you, as they do right now, to work for us for free. How is that, how was the 13th Amendment a good thing?
And most people in jail are Black and brown people.
Absolutely. So, but Black people, first and foremost, and we're like 13-14% of the population.
That's very interesting, though.
Have a higher population than us, but Black people are first incarcerated. We are the largest number of people in prison. Let's talk about the legalization of marijuana and the idea of social justice licenses. I have been following this because my organization was like, wait a minute, let's try to see if we can get a nonprofit discriminating. First of all, it's not going to Black people.
That's true.
Second of all, it's so hard. Like, to get a dispensary, you have to have everything set up. Like, it's working.
I think now it's harder.
Operated.
When it first started, it wasn't as bad.
Everywhere I go, all of the meetings I go to around marijuana, it's not about, the harm that was done to Black people, which was disproportionately and first done to Black folks. I remember when a police officer strip searched me in the middle of the street because I went to my friend's house and it was a drug dealing building or whatever. And she had her boyfriend in there or whatever. So it was like an in and out, like, I'm not going in there while your boyfriend. Girl, pull my bra out, make me took my shoes off in the Bronx, in the middle of the street. And then I had like some weed, I had some marijuana crumbs on my floor, and I kept asking for their badge numbers. And they took me to jail. They took me to jail and said I had weed on me. And literally it was like crumbs on my car floor. So this is something that has never been, taken care of. The harm has never been repaired. And right now, the people who are getting these weed licenses, first and foremost, are people of color. And when you say that, understand, you're talking about everybody but Black people. That's why you can't call me no person of color. That and our folks just came from being colored.
So I don't like that phrase either. It really throws me off. I'm like,
I just say all that to say we have to stop accepting certain things, or they're never going to change.
It's true. I only say it because people, I think now that's like the word, it bothers me. That and calling me, what's the unhoused, that bothers me a lot. But I understand, like, unsheltered, from what I understand, is for like street homeless, unhoused is people with a shelter. But I'm making it sound cuter than it is. I was really just homeless, like
really just out here in these streets, like that's how I ended up getting a PIP. I was homeless.
So guys, thank you for coming back this week, and tune into next week. Please follow us on all social media platforms and you'll get updates there. We are just putting out a lot of information for you guys to be able to use for you and your family. A lot of resource from the resource packet, to be honest, can work for anybody. It's not just family. So anybody who needs help, food, and things like that, that is there to help anybody, really. So check that out. We're doing events coming up and things like that, and I hope you enjoy. I hope you follow. I hope you look what's going on. Maybe you'll meet me in person one of these days. And thank you for coming back and listening to us and hearing the stories of the people.